Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi, Meiser Sheni, Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph. We are learning today already Daf Gimel. That's the third Daf. We left off on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, 2 lines from the top of the Amid, and we are in middle of discussing the following. The Mishnah said that because of the Kedusha that we have in Meiser Sheni, meaning Meiser Sheni, may not be used as collateral. Ain the mashkin in oisai. The Gemara wanted to know what happens if they violated this rule, and if Meiser Sheni was given or taken as a mashkin, whether there is a penalty, which means whether we demand for the mashkin to be returned or not. At the end of the day, midoiraisa, you can use it as a mashkin. Post facto, not every time one violates a takana derabanan, a gzeira derabanan, is there a knas? That was the Gemara's question. The Gemara, from the dinim of what happens to someone who eats Meiser Sheni outside Yerushalmi, and from the different opinions that in conclusion we have, there is a penalty, as we learned in the last year, for the person who ate Meiser Sheni or Mois Meiser Sheni Chutz Yerushalmi in violation of, there is a knas. So the Gemara left off to lean on the side, that's what the Gemara means, just like we find regarding that violation, that there is a penalty, that would imply that if someone used Meiser Sheni as a mashkin, there is a penalty. There is a knas, which means that the mashkin has to be returned. The Gemara now will continue with this conversation. Right, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph again, 2 lines from the top. Maybe we can go in the opposite direction. What will be the opposite direction? So the Gemara is going to bring a Mishnah that is discussing the prohibition of planting trees prior to Shvi'is. Planting trees on Shvi'is is prohibited. Planting trees prior to Shvi'is. So this already goes into the whole question, the whole machlokes tanoim. How long does it take for a plant to take root? And we're speaking about someone who's planting a tree within that period of time, which means it will not take root before Shvi'is. That is also prohibited. Question over there is whether there is a penalty or not. And from the halachas that we will learn over there, it will come out that there is no penalty. So basically, we're going to have an open-ended inquiry, because we're going to find sometimes we do penalize, sometimes we do not penalize, and that will be that closure of the discussion. The Gemara is going to move on to the next part of the Mishnah that says that Meiser Sheni money may not be used as a weight, right? V'loi shoiklin kinegdoi. We will also learn more details about the other prohibition in the Mishnah, that not only may one not sell Meiser Sheni for money, as we explained, the type of sale, but also one may not barter with Meiser Sheni. And there the Mishnah specified not outside Yerushalmi nor inside Yerushalmi, but a gift, you could give Meiser Sheni as a gift. Now, once we're going to speak about the gift, when we learned the Mishnah already, Yakir pointed out that in the previous Masechta, when it came to the Shisha Devarim, to the Mekach, we had a machlokes tanoim, whether matana kemecher or not. Actually, we're going to have the ground zero machlokes, whether matana kemecher, which is a machlokes Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim, regarding the din of Yovel. The din of Yovel is that lands that were sold revert back to their original owners on the year of Yovel. Question is, what happens if you own land that you got b'Yerusha and you gave it as a gift? Will that also revert back or not? That is a machlokes. Chachamim say yes, matana kemecher, which means it reverts back in Yovel. Rabbi Meir, the Tana Rabbi Meir says that ein matana kemecher. We're going to use that machlokes. We will apply it to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that you are allowed to gift Meiser Sheni. Now the question will be, selling you may not, gifting you may. Does that mean that our Mishnah only follows the opinion that ein matana kemecher? And actually, the Gemara is going to conclude it does not. And we're going to go from there, we're going to go into a very big concept, which is that when I have you as a guest in my house, and I serve you a meal, if you're my guest, how do we view the guest's ownership from the food that they are getting? And as the Gemara is going to make statements on a premise that the guest is not getting that food as a gift, the guest is getting permission to eat on the host's table. Like Lamashal, if the guest is going to take the piece of meat, and if he'll be sitting next to a woman that he wants to give kiddushin to, and he'll tell her Hariyat Mikudesh li. That will be a Talmudic application of this concept, whether the guest acquires the food that's placed in front of him. Maybe in today, modern day, the application will be whether the guests that allow themselves to take food home, whether they're ganavim or whether they're not. They can argue, I'm not a thief, I was invited, and the food that was in front of me is my food. So I can take v'mezakta doggy back home. This is a very interesting machlokes, and God willing, if we'll have time, we're going to move on to the next part of the Mishnah that moved for a moment from Meiser Sheni to Meiser Behema. The Mishnah said that Meiser Behema ein moichnin oisoi tamim chai. Same idea, since there is Kedusha. When it's alive, you cannot sell the animal. And we already quoted this when we learned the Mishnah. The problem is that Meiser Behema, even if it was slaughtered in the Beis HaMikdash, that means it's a bona fide carbon, you're not allowed to sell it. Somehow the Mishnah seems to imply that the prohibition of selling Meiser Behema is only when it's Tamim Chai, Be'emes Shachut, right? Tamim, we're speaking about a carbon, also may not be sold. We're going to have to work that out. That will be, God willing, the today's daf. That's going to go a little bit into Daf Dalet, Chevra Daf Gimel, Amid Aleph. Again, 2 lines from the top of the Amid. From what we learned until now, it seems like that if someone did use Meiser Sheni as a mashkin, they should be penalized. It's nishkeferlef. The whole kanas just means that the mashkin is going to be taken back. Or yeva kahada. The Gemara says, well, if you want, I'll bring you from another series of halachas that will actually lean in the opposite direction. And what is that? That's regarding the following rule. Now we're quoting a Mishnah in Masechta Shvi'is. Goes without saying that planting trees on the Shemitah year, on the Shvi'is year, is avada aser. Really, you have to know from what iser. But that's aser. What about planting before the Shvi'is year? So the Mishnah says that ein noitin, you may not plant. And the Mishnah enumerates all forms of planting. The ein mavrichin, hamavrich esagefen, mavrichin means to layer. To layer would mean that they would take an edge of a vine and they would insert it in the ground. So the end of the branch will actually become a new root. And once it takes hold, they would cut the branch off the original root and you would have like a new vine. So that is also, you're not planting a seed, but it's equally prohibited. Ve'ein mavrichin, ve'ein markivin is grafting, that we all understand. So you're not planting a branch into the ground, you are putting, you have to know how to do it, but you are placing a branch inside another branch. Neither of these types of planting may be done erev Shvi'is. If you are doing it, pachos mishloishim yoim lifnei Rosh Hashanah, this kind of holds that it takes up to 30 days for a tree to take root, and therefore doing this within 30 days will mean that it's going to take root from Rosh Hashanah onwards. That's not allowed to be done midrabanan. Okay, now the im nata oyhirkev oyhivrich stam lahoyer, that the Mishnah changed the seder, right? It should have been the im nata oyhivrich oyhirkev. I don't know whether the girsa is wrong or whether there's a reason for that. So the Mishnah says yakar, and I want you to know that yakar is a pen. Yakar means you have to uproot it. Because if you violated this law, then there's a penalty. By the way, we're not quoting from this penalty. You can't compare one case to the other. You can't compare giving a mashkin, planting a tree, like you did an isser that took root that will continuously give payers. That's a much worse effect from a prohibition. Bottom line is that there's a penalty. Now that's the end of the Mishnah. But now there's a question. What happens if someone did not uproot the tree? What do we do regarding the fruits? So the Gemara wants to know that lo yakar, if you did not follow this rabbinic rule. No, it's first of all, you planted be'isr. Top of that, you didn't submit yourself to the penalty. Now you have peirosav mahain, meaning are they forbidden? Or you can say, okay, you violated, but you can eat the fruits. For some reason, makes sense. We are comparing the giving of the mashkin to eating of the fruits. Because eating those fruits is a one-time thing. Again, the tree is a residual. These fruits, it's same thing. You gave a mashkin, it's a one-time thing. Okay, so by the way, that was a question that they asked when they learned Masechta Shvi'is. And the Rabbi, which is Rabbi, and Rabbi Ila, Hava Yesivin, they were sitting over there in Lebanon. They were part of the IDF, and they were there to stay. And they went all the way into Tzoir. And actually, what happened was of the Asa Uvda Kameyan, that this is exactly what happened. The whole thing. I mean, someone planted a tree and they didn't uproot it. And the Kshaila came to them whether they have to destroy the fruits or throw out the fruits or whether they can eat it. So Rabbi said the words Yishavchu Peiroisav. It's an interesting expression. The fruit shall be poured out. What he meant by using the word poured out, because he wasn't only paskening regarding those fruits. He was saying that that tree, one may never benefit from that tree. Okay, you didn't uproot it. You're not benefiting anything. None of the fruits may ever be eaten. That is what Rabbi Ila said. Amar Abba, 1 second. I was not counted amongst the people that gave such a ruling in the attic. Now, just stam lahoyer, this is just a expression. Many times, when the Chachamim wanted to make a vote, this is the Sanhedrin, whether they should enact a Gezerah, whether they should not enact a Gezerah, one thing is clear, what one needs to paskin a din, you have to have a certain type of menuchas hadas. For many people, menuchas hadas comes only when they have menuchas hanefesh. Most people that we know, they don't have a clear mind when their emotions are all over the place. And what they would do is that they would the famous one is over there in Shabbos, Daf Yud Gimel, right? Elias, Hananya, Ben Chizkiah, Ben Gorain. They would go into an attic. It wasn't any specific. It was going, it's like today you go into the mountains. That's the way I would see for me. Some people, they would go in front of the beach. The Aliyah represents a place where there's calm.
Retreat.
They want to retreat. Stop, that's the expression. We say, I was not during the retreat where they made such a ruling. In other words, what Rab Abba is saying is, one is not allowed to add to Gezeiras. If the Chachamim, I got it, they made a Gezerah not to plant a tree. That's already a Gezerah. Then they said more. You planted a tree, you got to uproot the tree. I got it. Now, this guy didn't do it. Okay, so they're violators. You're telling me on your own that the fruits may never be eaten? I don't remember ever having such a ruling. We never got together to discuss it. And since we didn't, don't add gezeras. Don't make up penalties. When you're in yeshiva and you come late, right, in the mashgiach, the new mashgiach gives you a $25 knas. That's the way you should respond to him. When was there a sitting over there in the attic to discuss what knas to give to the bacher that comes late? There has to be you can't do it on your own. And indeed, Nafkin Vishamun, they went out to inquire whether there was such a gathering. That Rabbi Yoina, now either end Rabbi Yitzchak ben Tavlai or in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Tavlai, in the name, that's the key of Rabbi Lazar. We learned in the previous Masechta that Rabbi Lazar was the big expert in Zeroyim. And he made the statement, Ein lechatchen al gzeira. Don't add, don't innovate gzeiras. Don't forget, Ya'akar itself is a gzeira. You're making like a gzeira al gzeira. Don't do that. And Rabbi Yossi, again, let's go in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Tavlai, like before Rabbi Yoin in the name of, and Rabbi Yossi in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Tavlai b'shem Rabbi Lazar. He had the same tradition, worded a little bit different. Ein moisifin al ha'halacha. One is ein mechatchin al ha'gzeira. One is ein moisifin al ha'halacha. I think the latter is a bigger chiddush, because ein mechatchin al ha'gzeira means if there's already a decree, which is to uproot the tree, don't make the decree bigger. That is easier to say. A halacha sounds like already a rule. You can argue, okay, they made a halacha. You play around with the halacha, you're going to get penalized. Even that you can't do. When the Chachamim said over there in the Mishnah and Shvi, that if someone planted a tree within 30 days, Yakar, don't think they stam said it. There was a sitting, there was a vote, there was a debate, and they came to that conclusion. Whichever girsa you're going to go, the bottom line is, just like we find in Shvi'is, that even though there are halachis, or there are gezeros, we cannot on our own go ahead and say, you violated that, I'm going to penalize you. So that leads us to come to the opposite conclusion as we came to in the last year. The Mishnah said you're not allowed to use Meiser Sheni for a mashkin. We get that. That's a halacha. You want to call that a gzeira. Now you're asking, and if someone did it, you can't be moisev al halacha. You can't be mechadish on the gzeira. That's what the Gemara is saying. In other words, from the eating Meiser Sheni, it looks like one side. From the law and Shvius, it looks like on the other side. So what do? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha b'shem Rab Zeira. I can actually, from our Mishnah, come to an understanding what we do. And what is that? Min mandatani. From that which the Braisa says. That you have to appreciate, we're speaking about a Braisa that is repeating the law of the Mishnah, but it is elaborating the law of the Mishnah. What did we have in our Mishnah regarding our topic? Which is that Meiser Sheni may not be used for a mashkin. Our Mishnah said, Ein memashkin in oisoi. That's all our Mishnah said. What does the Braisa say? The Braisa added, Ein memashkin in oisoi, v'loi marhin in oisoi. We explained this in the last year. Mashkin, the word mashkin here would mean, I owe you money. The date of payment comes. God forbid, I don't have the money. So there, what do I do in order to buy time? I tell you, listen here, ainly, but don't get nervous that you're never going to get your money back. I'm giving you a mashkin. The word mashkin in this context is used, not something that was given in order for the loan to be given. It's given when I'm not paying. The word marhinin is a word that's used when it's given in the beginning of the loan. Okay, the Mishnah never spoke about marhinin. The Braisa is extending. Not only may it not be given in middle, by the way, that in middle is a much more serious thing. In other words, when I don't pay, I'm really going to get into trouble. It's almost like a payment. You can argue it's like a payment because that guy already knows with me, I don't have the money. Giving it in the beginning is not so serious. When you give a loan, you think at the end you're going to get your money back, but still the Braisa adds to it. So Hada Amar, so the Gemara has the logic that just like the Braisa added to the Mishnah, that Avar or Mishkin, Avar Vehirin, that if someone violated either or, then yes, Koinsin Oisoi. Look inside the Marafulda, 9 lines from the top, right on the side of the Ridvaz, Koinsin Oisoi. Yeah, we do, that's the conclusion. We do penalize the Im Loi Kain, because if that would not be the case, Lama Hoisif Hatana V'chidesh Alak what's the Hoisafa of the halacha? What's the chidush on the gezerah? Hainu hahirhoin mashalai niskar b'masnisin. In other words, you have to know how to learn a braisa. It's not that really when they made this rule, let's call this a halacha or a gezerah. See, the Marafulda uses both expressions. That you can't use it as a mashkin. It's not like really they elaborated. You can't take it as a mashkin in the middle. You can't take it as a mashkin in the beginning. And Rabbi was brief and the Braisa was elaborate. That's not the way the Gemara is learning it. The emes, when the Chachamim were discussing about mashkin, they said only one statement: Ein the mashkin in oisai. And yet, we have the right to add to it, to say, well, if you can't use it as a mashkin when the due date came and you didn't pay, now I'm going to add. You can't even give it in the beginning. We see that Braisa as the chevra without a vote, allowing themselves, when it comes to this din of a mashkin, to completely cut it out. And we can add. So then let's completely cut it out. If someone used it, cut that out, give it back.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, you can make. The Gabi wants to make. The Gabi is asking whether you can. Will allow him.
Yerushalmi on Shabbos, I think,
say
that if someone goes and violates the Yerushalmi and they build something on Shabbos, it's asur la'olam. Like there are things like I remember when I learned it once, we were talking about the rail system in Israel that was built probably on Shabbos. That there are some people to this day they won't use it because it was built on Shabbos, but that would be a knas on a knas, right?
That's correct. Correct. In other words, actually, the Gemara is concluding over here that we do that. I would even say it's not like we reject what was said b'shem and Rabbi Lazar ein machachin al gzeira. We are saying it depends what gzeira. It's not black and white. There is a concept of ein machachin al gzeira. There's a concept of ein moisifan al halacha, and then there is a concept that we are machadish. We're learning this b'ashgacha pratas tafshan pevav before Pesach. You know how many hoisafas we make for Pesach? Rabbi Tauber says when Moshe Rabbeinu was coming back, he won't recognize Pesach. All I said was don't eat chametz. He's going to say, what are you guys doing? Maybe he's exaggerating, but I'm saying yesh v'yesh. Beautiful. Okay, weiter. Next case in the Mishnah is v'loy shoyklin kenegdoi ma'ois. Now I just want to say like this, that just to speak it out again, the weights that they had then was a counterweight, right? The moiznayim. So you have this pole in the middle, and you have this system where you have two counter pans, and the goal is to keep them on the same. You want to level them. How do you level them? So that you would have a weight. You know, the weight is a kilo. The weight is a pound, a stone, pound. And if you're selling meat in the weight of a pound, then you would fill up the other pan on the opposite side. And when it's leveled, now you got yourself a pound. Coins had a standard weight. So it was common for people, if they didn't have the weight stone, they would use coins. So that's easy. Mois, ma'aser sheni, should not be used as a weight. You're degrading, it's something holy. It doesn't only mean money. It could be that for whatever reason, you know exactly how much your avocado weighs. For whatever reason, because you bought one and you paid for it for the weight. So now you know that your avocado weighs the pound. Don't use that. Don't use ma'aser sheni. Now, the Gemara is going to come with a gewaldige question that will remain unresolved. Here's going to be the Gemara's question. So first of all, when it says in the Mishnah that v'lo shoyklin mois kenegdei ma'os, so afilu sela shel chulin lasois sela shel ma'aser sheni. So I have like this. I have a coin of ma'aser sheni. Let's say whatever the coin or coins that total to a pound. I am going to redeem my ma'aser sheni on chulin money. For some reason, let's just say that the chulin money looks a little bit worn out. I want to know whether they have their full weight. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put my chulin money that I would like to use for pidyon ma'aser sheni on the other side of the weight to see whether it weighs a pound. Here, I'm weighing chulin, not stam chulin. I'm weighing chulin to see whether I should use it for ma'aser sheni. One would think that in that scenario, maybe I should be allowed to use it. You understand? Because I'm not using it for ma'aser sheni, but I'm using it for something for the purpose of making it into ma'aser sheni. So for that, the Braisa says even that may not be done.
Also for the purpose of making sure that ma'aser sheni doesn't get chipped, doesn't get ripped off.
Not only will it become ma'aser sheni, but it's also to make sure that ma'aser sheni doesn't get chipped off. Very good, very good. Bottom line is, when I'm putting it into the weight, I have on one side already mois ma'aser sheni. I have on the other side chulin right now. Don't do that. Even there, don't do that. Okay. Now asks the Gemara, I get that the Braisa says that. And same thing. You have a coin or coins of ma'aser sheni, and you know that they weigh a pound. So you already did pidyon ma'aser sheni on money. You already did it. You want to know whether you gypped off the ma'aser sheni. By the way, gypped off would mean that if those coins that you already used for pidyon ma'aser sheni don't have enough weight, you'll have to add to it. The coins that you designated are ma'aser sheni, so it's already ma'aser sheni. Maybe over here you should be allowed to do it. Maybe not. Maybe the concept of putting ma'aser sheni in a weight is already degrading the kedusha. Or maybe don't use a kodesh for chulin. Here it's kodesh for kodesh. That's a great question. No, it's can you do it for you to confirm that it's accurate, or for you to find out that it's inaccurate, and for you to add to it? Another inquiry. Great. So a person passes away. Yaakov Avinu passes away. He already had in his possession mois ma'aser sheni. Now his children, Reuven, Shimon, etc. Now they have to divide. They're dividing the ma'aser sheni. When you divide something, you want for everyone to get the right share, whatever that is. Reuven will get double, whatever the share is. Again, here you're putting into this type of weight on both sides ma'aser sheni. Again, in Bavli, you would say teku. Yerushalmi doesn't even need to say teku, because the point is just to bring up this question. And that's it. And this question.
One more thought. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, because we recently learned in the Rambam, you want to get meat from the butcher and things like that. There's a certain, right? There's a certain way. You're not allowed to use. You're not allowed to wait. You're not allowed to weigh it. So there's something clearly very clear about
weighing it, because putting it in a weight, we're going to learn about all these korbanos. All these korbanos, even when you are allowed to sell them, you can't sell them in the market, and you can't sell them by using a weight. Even in your home, you have to sell them by estimation. And a chanami, that's very good. That's similar. It would sound from that you should never put it in a weight. But don't forget, kachim is holier than ma'aser sheni. Right? From ma'aser sheni, when you, for example, a person who's tamei and they go to the mikveh and they are at full yoim, they can eat ma'aser sheni. Truma, for that you already need seis hakirchavim. It's a different. That's the third Perek and chagiga, right? The different steps of kedusha. Okay, moving on. The next rule in the Mishnah is about bartering. Now, there is a klal that we learn when we're young, and we're all young, that one of the ways for us to know whether the Gemara is quoting a Mishnah or a Braisa is that when you quote a Mishnah, you say Tanan. When you quote a Braisa, you say Tanya, you say Tanei, or Tana Rabbanan. The Gemara here is going Tanan, but what the Gemara is quoting is a Braisa. Now, you can't make up your own gersois. But they found, so the Mara Fulda, if you look towards the end of the Amid, 5 lines before the bottom, says Tanei Garsinon. It fits. Unless you would say that the Yerushalmi doesn't have these rules. But whichever way. So whether it says Tanei or whether it says Tanan, whichever one, what we're quoting now is a Brais. And here we go. Don't forget, guys, the din of barter, the Mishnah already specified, is whether you are outside Yerushalayim or whether you are already inside Yerushalayim. That what? The Brais is speaking about what you may not do already in the holy city. You cannot tell that person, hey, l'chayayin, here is wine. We're speaking about, I'm giving you my wine of Ma'aser Sheni, but I'm not giving you as a gift. I'm exchanging it. It's a barter. V'sein li shemen. Or the opposite direction. Hey, l'chashemen v'sein li yayin. That you're not allowed to do. That's the din of the Mishnah, that you're not allowed to barter. It's a form of sale. And clearly, in this case, in Yerushalayim, you can't do pidyon. In Yerushalayim, pidyon is ineffective. That's the way we explained the ein moichrin. Ein moichrin in the Mishnah is when you are dafka not making a pidyon. I'm selling you my peiros ma'aser sheni. What is asur? When I'm telling you my peiros will remain ma'aser sheni, which is why I'll allow you to pay even less than the market value because you have to schlep it to Yerushalayim. Same thing over here. You can't barter it. But what could you do? Avol oimer lo, you are allowed to tell the other, listen to these words, hey, lochayayin. Here is wine, she'ein lochayayin. Because you don't have wine, so I'm giving you wine. Or, hey, lochashemen, she'ein lochashemen, because you don't have oil. Now, what would even be the issue? The issue is, don't forget, we're talking about Yerushalmis, they were very sharp, is that implies it's like I'm really saying, I'm giving you wine, not because I want to give you wine. I'm giving you wine because you don't have wine. What am I hoping? That you'll know that I don't have oil, and you're going to give me oil because I don't have oil. That's not a problem because I never mentioned it. So that far of a hint, vaday muter, I'm giving you wine. No, what's the chiddush? Because if I just want to give you a gift, I'm not going to tell you, here, take wine because you don't have wine. Who does that? I'm saying something for you to think. I'm hoping you're going to say, and what do you not have? Oh, I have a whole list. I would give you. I have much more than oil. Okay, now, so that's clear. What's the Gemara's question? Now we got the Baraisa. What's the question? A regular hint, an American mitumtam hint, which is, hey, lochosh yayin she'ein li shemen. Here's wine. You know, I am giving it to you because I don't have oil. Oh. So I'm not telling you, hey, lochayayin v'tein li shemen. I'm not saying that. Give me oil. I'm saying I'm giving you wine because I don't have oil. How great is that mutar or us? So the Gemara says, have a boy in Meimar. Originally, the Chevra were saying, such a hint, that's mamash aser. Actually, they found a Braisa that explicitly says it's mutar. But ashkach tonei, that it's mutar. Daf gimel amid beis. Now, 1 second. Shouldn't, Gemara wants to know, how Braisa says it's mutar. So what? What's the logic behind it? It's mamash a barter. Ve'ena aser mishum chalipin. Isn't this the prohibition? Hinting should be aser. So answers the Gemara, no. Mikivin she'ena yochel lo hitziu mimenu bedin. That's the key. When I give you wine, if I give you wine and I tell you, hey, lochayayin, And v'tein li shemen, if I give you the wine and you don't give me the oil, in a Beis Din, I can take my wine back. If I tell you I'm giving you wine because I don't have oil, even though there is a hint, if you don't give me the oil, I cannot get the oil from you in a din Torah. So mekiven she'einu yachol letzio memena bedin, therefore ein einu chalipin. That's the key. Look inside the top marav folder. That kiven she'einu yachol letzio memena bedin. Shaharei lo yomer loy v'tein li shemen keneged elo meramez lei. And v'nuch aloymen matonu yahavu zeh lo zeh v'lei have a chalipin gomor. And therefore it's muter. Why can he not take it out on the din Torah? V'layda mila means, but why? Give me the mila, give me the reason. Omar, he told him, hey l'chayayin she'ein li shemen. And therefore, the Gemara is arguing that maybe this guy, if he doesn't get his oil, should be able to get the oil in a din Torah. Because why would he mention oil if not for him to tell him, I'm giving you wine, I don't have oil? So the Gemara says, the ilu havali mishach. Maybe because maybe the guy that received the wine and doesn't give the oil can claim, you know what, I understood. I understood that you are explaining why are you only giving me wine? Why are you not giving me wine and oil? You're telling me, here's wine. You know why I'm not also giving you oil? Because a Chanishkan oil to give you. That's what the recipient is able to claim. I love it. So when you give a donation and you have to explain yourself that you're not giving more. You ever felt that? That's the logic over here. The ilo havali mashach. He said, and I don't have oil because what he is saying, if I would have oil, havina meitamach, I would also give you oil. So since there is a dual meaning, that's why you can't take it out in the din Torah, which actually means that if there would not be a dual meaning, that which you are communicating via a hint is also something that's binding, and it would allow the other side to get out of you something in a din Torah. When is a remes not strong enough? If a remes has dual meanings, not always. Not always. No. By the way, when you say something clearly, there's always also two meanings. That's where all of the din Torah comes. Even when you make a clause in the contract, two possible meanings, correct. Not so simple communication. Okay, now from here, we moved on to the next din. Barter, you can do. Hey, l'chayayin v'ten li shemen, you can do. But what happens if I give you wine and you give me oil? No one said a peep to each other. Gift for a gift. That's permitted. That's permitted. That's what the Mishnah says. Avon noisnen zelozem. They can give to each other. We don't say, if I gave you wine, you can't give me anything anymore. We don't say that. Now, Yakir, this is for you. Remember you mentioned in the Mishnah, Mekach Matana. Again, the ground zero of Matana Kemekach, or Matana Ene Kemekach, is in the din of Yovel. When I sell, if I were to know what is my ancestral land, Mashiach will tell me what that is. It's going to be someone else's apartment that they never paid for 30 years. I don't know how that's going to work. How is that going to work? Maybe Mashiach is afraid to come. You know what? It's like Yehoshua. You know what type of arguments? Yeshua had it easier because by Yeshua, no one owned anything yet. The machlekes was, why did that guy get more than me? Everyone felt the other guy got more than me. Now it's going to be Mamash. He's going to be a chacham more than Shlomo HaMelech. But the point is like this: when I know what is my ancestral land, clear. If I sell it to you, bisman shahayovel noyig, it comes back to me right Yom Kippur on Yovel. That's when everything returns back. What happens if I gave you a gift? I gave you a gift. Machlokes chachamim and ameh. Just the chachamim say matane kemechet. It reverts back in Yovel. Rav Meir says a gift is lo'olam vod. That's the ground zero. Rav Meir says ein matane kemechet. Okay, our Mishnah says that you can give to each other matnas chinam. I have a simple question. Forget about me giving you and you giving me. Now that we established that ein moichrin meiser sheni, in the case where the fruit itself retains its kedusha, why would I be allowed to give it to you as a gift? Yakir, that's what you know is if there's kedusha, you are exchanging owners. The item stays holy. You would argue that if you hold like the chachamim that matana kemecher, when the Chazal made this Nimnu v'gamru baliyah, that what? That ein moichrin oisai, ein oisne matana. So the Gemara Taka says that our Mishnah only follows Rab Meir and a Chanami. Do Rav Meir oimer. Rav Meir is the one that says ein matana kemecher, which means that if lachachamim, you cannot even give a matana. Okay, who says that? The Gemara doesn't say who said that, but that's how they began the discussion in the Bnei Yeshiva. So Amar Rabbi Yosi, the Amoyre Rabbi Yosi says, no, I don't go with that. Our Mishnah Divrei Hakoli. Hocha kadod tani. Why? You're right. And we're going to elaborate. What type of gift are we referring to? Quotes the Gemara, Braisa. Ho yo oimer adam lachaveroi. Ma chalta hayoim. When a man in Yerushalmi will ask his fellow, what did you eat today? And he would tell him, I ate kayetz. Remember, kayetz hamizbeach? Kayetz means dessert, or specifically, kayetz means summer, right? Kayetz means summer fruit. Summer fruit, just to know that during winter, fruit is more expensive because, it's not its season. And kayetz is relatively inexpensive fruit. So like kayetz. So in Yerushalayim, they would respond by saying kayetz. Kayetz should mean summer fruit. But in the Yerushalmis, they don't speak the way we speak. They're chachamim gedolim. They know how to talk. Everything, dailach hakima b'remiza. Since they're chachamim, they speak in hints. The one who asked the question should understand, that's right, this is in Yerushalayim only, that he meant kayetz b'chor. Why did he mean that he got basar b'chor? I'll tell you why. Because ma hakayetz nimkar b'zoil, summer fruit is relatively inexpensive because it's plentiful. Af habachor nimkar b'zoil. Actually, we're going to go, not today, the next year, we're going to go to the part of the Mishnah of Bechar. Today, we're going to only go into the Meiser Behema. But like we just mentioned before, Bechar, first of all, Bechar is the male offspring from either any one of the three species that are called Behema, cattle, sheep, and goats. If the Peter Rechem was a male, they are Kadosh Mirechem. Two dinim. Number one, they are property of the kohen. You get to choose which kohen, but they don't belong to you. And second of all, even the kohen, if it's unblemished, most animals are born unblemished. Well, whatever. If it's unblemished, then it is already imbued with kedushas mizbeach. If it gets blemished, then it becomes personal property of the bechor. But since it was worthy to go on the altar, we mamish just mentioned this a couple of minutes ago. Since it had kedushas mizbeach, we treat it with reverence, which would mean you can sell it. You're not allowed to sell it in the market. Number two, even when you sell it, not in the meat market, you can never put it on weights. You can only sell it by estimation. Anything that's sold by estimation will be sold for cheap. Whenever when you go today, the business people and they buy these sellouts, these lots, as a rule, they do it because they pay less money. When you buy by estimation, the lokeach benefits. That's the moichet has a reason why he's doing it. So bechar was sold bezoil. So in the Yerushalmis, when they would speak about bechar, they would call it kayetz. Af habechar nimkar bezoil. Now, if a guy asked his friend, what did you eat? By the way, just to understand, why are they asking that question? They're not asking that question because they are inviting the other. They're asking the question, oh, this is so common here. Someone invited you for lunch. Everyone knows that you were invited to the Weisses. And then after you came back, someone asked you, what did they serve? Nosy people. That's what it is. So the guy would answer, kayetz. What he didn't mean, he got these cheap fruits. He got the basar bechar. If the guest said, oh, what did I had man. What did they mean with man? This is only Yerushalmis. That it's Meiser Sheni. What? Why? Why did the Yerushalmis call Meiser Sheni man? Because ma hamon niten b'matane. God gave man for free. Af Meiser Sheni may be given as a gift. So interesting that ayah. That's interesting. The Braisa is speaking about how they spoke over there in Yerushalayim. Bottom line is, we do have a brisa that says that Ma'aser Sheni nitin b'matana. Guys, the Yerushalmis did not use expressions l'Rab Meir because they know we don't paskin like Rab Meir. L'chayra, that's the raya. That must mean that l'kula alma Ma'aser Sheni may be given b'matana. Now, I have a kash on that. How can you say Ma'aser Sheni is given b'matana when the Chachamim say that matana kemecher? The Mishnah says Ma'aser Sheni ein moichlen oisai. You have to understand how gavaldik is the Talmud Yerushalmi. The answer is, why did they bring this brisa? Because what is the case of the brisa? Where they asked the guest who was invited by the Weises, what did they serve you? There is where you can give Ma'aser Sheni, which means, according to the Chachamim, you can't stop a guy in the street in Yerushalayim and tell him, hey, locha yayin zebe matana. You can't do that. Why? Because matana kemecher. Here we're speaking about a specific type of gift, which is, I invite you to be my guest. When you are eating at my table, I can give you Ma'aser Sheni. Even though l'chachamim, matana kemecher and Ma'aser Sheni ein moichlen oisoi, but as my guest, I can. Why? Because that's what the Gemara is really trying to tell you. When you have someone eating on your table, you have a guest, you can say, well, the guest is eating b'matana. Hopefully, they're not going to get an invoice after Shabbos. Hopefully. But how do we view the food that's on their plate? Is it their food? Think about that. If, like I said in the intro, if a man is going there with a woman with whom he's planning to give kedushin, but a hatnish ken pruta, and he's a guest in your home, and he's there with his challah to be, can he take the challah that you gave him, the challah, and turn to this woman in front of two Eidim and say, Hareat Nikodesh li, b'chalazu. Can you do that? And he can say, you gave it to me to eat. According to this Gemara, that's what this Gemara is saying. No, you cannot. This type of matana, even lachachamim, is einoi kamecher. When you serve food to a guest, you are allowing your guest to eat from your table. It's like shitas chachamim b'chlal. Ma'aser Sheni is called maman gavoya, but I'm allowed to eat it. Yeah, mishulchan gavoya ka'achli. That's a different type of gift. That's what we're saying over here. In other words, our Mishnah goes l'kula alma. That's what Rabbi Yossi is saying. And when the Mishnah is saying that you can give a gift, it's referring to a host. That when you are in Yerushalayim and you are hosting and you have guests, you can serve Ma'aser Sheni. That's not a real gift. That's a semi-gift. And now the Gemara says, Hativoin. And that's Gavaldik. That's going to be, sometimes it's a kasha, here it's a proof. Adei Ma'aser Behema. When it comes to Ma'aser Behema, which according to everyone, Einoi Nimkar, by the way, it's stated in our Mishnah in a line. And yet, what did we just say? That if a guy says kayetz, what does it mean he ate? He ate Ma'aser Behema. So what do you see over here? Va'at omart nitan b'matana, which you could. Avzeh nitan b'matana. Okay. Now, what Rabbi Yossi didn't say our Mishnah is not Rav Meir. Rabbi Yossi said, here's a chaim, guys. According to Rav Meir, Vada the Mishnah is like Rav Meir. Our Mishnah can even go according to the Chachamim. You're not allowed to give a normal matana. Okay, but as a guest, and which is common in Yerushalayim, everyone had guests over, and they would serve kachim, they would serve a Ma'aser Sheni, that you could do. Now the Gemara is going to, Rav Mana is going to tell you, not only could the Mishnah also be like the Chachamim, the Mishnah is only like Chachamim. Our Mishnah is not Rabbi Meir. Rav Mana lo yomar kein. Ella ki Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah can only follow Rabbi Yehuda. Which Rabbi Yehuda? The Rabbi Yehuda Amar Asa Oisek in Chasav. That machlekes that we quoted on Daf Aleph, whether Ma'aser Sheni is Maman Gevoya, whether Ma'aser Sheni is Maman Hedyet. It's amazing. He's building one on top of the other. If I'm sitting at your table, can I give the food on my plate to someone else as a gift? I know some people here like doing it. I know many people because they'll never give a gift from their pocket, but they'll give a gift from your pocket. Think about it. According to Rav Meir that says Ma'aser Sheni is Maman Gevoya, you're not allowed to give it as a gift. Not amazing. No, if it grew on my land and I separated the Ma'aser Sheni, that's what Rav Mana is arguing. This is God's property. that I'm allowed to eat from. I'm the guest. If I'm the guest, I'm not allowed to invite another guest. By level A, the guest invites a guest. That's a chiddush. But it's not legal. It's a lifnim mishudas hadin. I love it. I frag die Gemara hativoin. How can you say that? Harei meiser behema divrei hakol enek en chasav va'at oma nitim b'matana. So therefore, avza nitim b'matana. So what he's saying over here is that even though it's mamin gevoya, I disagree with this premise. That's what the Gemara doesn't accept Rav Mana. Just like for sure, meiser behema is shulchan gevoya. It's a carbon. And if I am eating on my table in Yerushalmi, meiser behema, the parts of the meats that may be eaten by the owners inside the walls of Yerushalmi, I am allowed to have a guest. Even according to Rav Meir that holds it's mamin gevoya, you are allowed to invite guests and give them meiser sheni. So this is a fascinating machloikas in the Gemara. How do you view the ownership of a guest with the food that he's given? I want you to know something else. Many people hold you're not allowed to give a gift on Shabbos. So how can you have guests? This answers that question because you're not really giving a gift. They're eating off your table. You're not giving a gift. According to the ones that hold it's mamash a gift.
What's the problem with gifting on Shabbos?
If I'm not mistaken, gifting is similar to selling, in which there's a shema. You're right. You might write a document, even though by a gift. Why would you write a document? I mean, that's exeter de Rabbana, not to change ownerships. If I'm not mistaken, there's a whole sugi about it. I know we're not that noyig l'chumra. It's very common. People come over Shabbos and they bring a bottle of wine, but I know there's some Haredi people that won't accept it. And then they think they're going to get 2 bottles after Shabbos. Doesn't work that way. They get nothing. But they don't know.